They are a huge part of our economy, but restaurants are also a major part of our social and cultural lives, and they are now shuttered for all but takeout. That means they're taking a major hit to the bottom line, and there are major realignments for consumers in where and what they eat. With us now on how that's playing out, all in the provincial capital, in Midtown, Joshna Maharaj, chef, food activist, and author most recently of Take Back the Tray. In Little Italy, John Sinopoli, executive chef and owner of the Ascari Hospitality Group. And in Koreatown, food reporter Corey Mintz, whose work has appeared on our website, tvo.org, in the New York Times, The Walrus, and many, many others. It's good to see you three today. And, let's put these numbers out here just for starters and give our viewers and listeners on podcast a sense about how huge this industry is. Restaurants in Canada are 4% of Ontario's GDP sales, $37 billion in annual sales. The restaurant industry employs 6.4% of Ontario's workforce. It employs, most importantly, 20% of young people, ages 15 to 24, and there are 9 million restaurant visits every day. These numbers, of course, all pre-pandemic. It is a very different scene now. And Joshna, let's hear from you first on this. We are hearing estimates that upwards of 50% of restaurants are going to be gone by the end of the summer for good.
Right.
Why would that be?
They just don't have the money to keep going, Steve. It is such as it is before a disaster struck. The restaurant business was an incredibly thin, lean model, right? There's very, very little profit. Costs are super high. We definitely don't do this for the money, right? There are much smarter ways to make money. And so one little thing like this pandemic, like a shutdown, is toppling it. And restaurateurs just don't have the money to keep pouring in, to keep rent going, to keep businesses going, to keep staff afloat. Unfortunately, it just doesn't work if there's nobody walking in the door and buying your food, right?
Corey, would all restaurants, generally speaking, be hit equally as hard during this pandemic?
Well, I think everybody's differently prepared. I mean, there's a big difference between, I've been working on a book for the last 6 months, and it's about this, and I've kind of strated restaurants into the chain restaurant, the family restaurant, the virtual restaurant, the chef-driven restaurant. They work on very different margins, and they have different access to resources. But I think the key ingredient is who can think broader of getting outside of the context of the traditional model of we buy food, we make it delicious, and we sell it, because one way or another, however many restaurants remain, however, whatever strategy they use to survive, they have to break out of that model.
Mm-hmm. I guess the thinking, though, might be that if you were, say, a big fancy restaurant that could charge $50 for a hamburger, you've probably got the cash on hand to ride this out. Now, that would be an assumption. Do you think that's true?
It's not necessarily true. You know, the first day of the pandemic, March 15th, we'll call it the day the restaurants died, I was on a phone call with someone who owns 4 or 5 restaurants in Toronto, 4 or 5 restaurants in LA. And she said, I haven't slept in days. I'm on the phone with my accountant, my lawyer, and yes, she's very successful, very smart, but she was also over leveraged because she was planning on opening 5 restaurants this year. So all her cash is dispersed. Mm-hmm. Despite that, many restaurateurs tell me they were taught to always have 3 months of cash in reserves. Most don't.
And that 3 months is going to be up pretty soon anyway.
Right.
John, tell us, how have your restaurants been affected by all this?
Very drastically, obviously. Our revenues from March 15th forward for about a month were down 100%. We were not set up to do takeout. We were more casual fine dining in all of our establishments. We had a catering company with many events planned that all got canceled immediately. We own a bar that was immediately closed. So, we weren't set up on Uber Eats or any of these takeout platforms. So we've shifted to a bunch of different initiatives to grow revenue to some semblance of survival, but it really still doesn't pay the rent. We're doing weekly grocery boxes curated by our team. We are doing prepared meal kits delivered to anyone in the 416. We're doing about 2,000 meals, but still, those are very small numbers and small margins. We had 97 employees. We've only been able to bring back less than 20 of them.
Hmm. So this obviously was not the kind of restaurant business that you intended to get into when you started
No.
this. How easily or hard, or how easy or difficult has it been to adapt to your new reality?
Well, I mean, easy and difficult are strange words in this time. It's
Hmm.
you do what's necessary. You get up in the morning, you figure out what you need to do, and you start it. There's no resting. There's no waiting and seeing. You got to throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. And hopefully, one of those things you throw at the wall has a margin that is decent enough to um, make a little bit of money, and then also has an ability to grow. Uh, you need to do things that will be able to scale in order for you to pay some of your expenses. We had to throw away about $20,000 in perishable inventory. I mean, we didn't throw it away, obviously. We repurposed it, gave it away, donated it, fed it to our staff, but we couldn't sell it. That's a lot of money, not to mention the labor it took to prepare all of that product. That's going to be part of our restart. And that is something that restaurants just don't budget for. You budget to open your restaurant once in its lifespan, not twice.
Yeah,
Hmm.
Josh, now let's pick up on that angle of budgeting and margins. I mean, you told us before the margins are razor thin in this business on the best of times. So, but is it that way across the board? I guess people are probably wondering, would the margins at McDonald's, for example, be the same as the margins at a small little neighborhood restaurant that's maybe got 15 or 20 tables versus another place that might have 2 floors, 100 tables and charges, $75 for a steak? Figure it out for us if you
Right.
would.
I would love to lead to John for more specifics on this, but I think that the more important distinction needs to be made between big corporate restaurants like McDonald's and an independent small business or a family operated chain, right? We don't have to worry at all about the hits that McDonald's might be taking to their business right now. They will be just fine. They have a corporate structure. They are mammoth. They will take a hit, but it will be insignificant. It will not sink them, right? There are this other population of restaurants for whom this will sink the ship, right? This is too big a blow, as John said. Not less than 20 of his 96 or 97 staff have come back, right? This is really where I think our attention needs to be paid. We we can't worry about the hits that Walmart and Burger King and McDonald's and Wendy's are going to take because they are insignificant. They will weather this storm. They will come out on the other side. Our small restaurants are the ones that are hanging in this really fragile balance, and they're the ones that I think need way more of our attention.
Okay, understood. In which case, John, let's do that. And again,
Mhm.
just so our viewers can have a better understanding of how the money works in your business. If
Yes,
if someone goes into one of your restaurants and they spend $100 for a meal,
Mhm.
take us through that $100. Where does it go? What does it pay
Yeah,
for?
sure.
Who gets
yeah,
what? Really,
yeah.
really break it down for us.
Yeah, so it depends. All our three restaurants are slightly different in their offering and business model, but in general, we have two two kinds of costs. We have our prime costs and our fixed costs. Our prime costs comprise of our product cost, cost of goods sold, which we generally target to be around 30%. If you're doing a good job, you can get it slightly under. If you have a more kind of luxury model, sometimes those prime costs are a little above 30%. Then you have your labor cost, your other variable cost, which you also like to target around 30-35%. But in general, in this labor market and with our current uh, labor laws, it probably pushes closer to 40%. So a good restaurant model runs about 65-70% just product and labor. That does not include rent, all of your services. Like we have a supplier and a service provider for everything, whether it be grease trap
Right.
removal or someone who waters the plants or someone who washes the windows or the person who brings your chemicals to wash your dishwashers. There's a ton of line items that we have in our P&L that most other small businesses just don't have. So at the end of the day, we
Ooh,
on average in Canada, it's less than $5 on the $100 that stays in the restaurant. So there's a
Wow.
couple, yes. So that number is significant in a number of ways. First of all, we employ more people per dollar sold than any
right.
other business in the country by twofold. So for every $1 million we take in, we need just less than 15 employees. For a retail store, for example, that's about 6.5 employees. So we employ more people. We are more valuable to society because of that. We also pay way more taxes because of that. We contribute to much more of the income tax funding for the government. We contribute to more payroll tax. We contribute to more HST tax, all of those things. And then also 95% of the money that comes into our business goes back out into the community, into supporting businesses, supporting industries. All of those industries are in just as a perilous situation as we are right now. We can't pay our bills to them. We owe them across the country over $700 million in owings just for March that we cannot pay because we're not open to make any money.
Well, Corey, let me ask the $64,000 question to you, since you know this sector so well. Why does anybody want to go into a business where the margins are that thin and the work is that hard?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's funny you asked the one person on this panel without skin in the game. But in my experience, having interviewed so many people over the past decade, and having gotten married myself a few years ago, I feel like we face the same theoretical odds of success, business failure versus divorce. And I feel like a lot of people make this decision. It's an emotional decision. It's not a practical decision. We do it because we love the thing. We love the person. We love the lifestyle. And that hasn't changed. COVID's going to change that for a lot of people, not just because this is so awful what's happening, but because the insurance companies are saying, this is an act of God, because the government is doing its best, but it's not enough, because the opportunities for entrepreneurialism are drying up. And I think a lot of people will be viewing that choice to open a restaurant very differently in the future.
Right.
Corey, have you talked to people who are now, presumably not going to last through this and are really at a crossroads in life and are wondering, gosh, who am I now? What am I going to do now? This has been so much of my identity up until this point. What do I do now?
Certainly. I mean, I've talked to a wide variety of people. I talked to someone that day. He said, I have 4 restaurants. I'm probably going to lose 2 of them. I might lose all 4 of them. And I might declare bankruptcy because of that. And he also told me, maybe I'm in denial, but I've never been happier because, 1, I'm spending all this time with my wife and children. And 2, the business wasn't working. The industry wasn't working. I mean, this was someone who was trying to sort of challenge some of the inequities of it and some of what wasn't functioning about the restaurant industry, and found it so frustrating. And, he's looking for a different path, whatever that's going to look like. He just sort of embraced this wasn't okay for him anymore, versus someone like, I think a lot of us read that essay by Gabrielle Hamilton in the New York Times, who talked about the frustration with her restaurant, in that as she sees so many of her peers pivoting to running ghost kitchens, just producing burritos and chicken sandwiches for delivery. And she said, I can do that. I'm a chef. I certainly have the skills, but that's not what I got into this business for. I want a room full of people. And the reality is you can't have a room full of people, not now and not for the next, let's call it phase 2 of COVID, which is the post-quarantine, pre-vaccine era, which could last a long time.
Joshna, the federal government mostly and the provincial government to some extent have come forward with a variety of programs and tax breaks and so on in an attempt to, do what they can to alleviate the situation. How would you rate the response by both levels of government so far?
Insufficient. It's not enough. And I think the most important piece about this is that there's not recognition that the hospitality industry is special and particular for all of the reasons that John just articulated. The fact that the industry employs so many other people, that is this bit of a hub, and the financial support that is required is distinct for this group of people. The small business stuff, the renting stuff, it's piecemeal and it's not doing the job. And unfortunately, I think there's a much bigger piece on the line, because I think our government needs to really understand the role that small family restaurants play in our society. That to me feels like a really big disconnect. It's not enough, and it really does need to be more.
Well, not just from an employment and a revenue point of view. We're a stone's throw from Yonge and Eglinton here. And as you walk down the street, I mean, almost every other storefront is a restaurant. And if half of them or more are going to go out of business, what do you imagine, Joshna, what's Yonge Street going to look like in 6 months or a year if half of these restaurants are gone?
I really don't know. I sort of drive around or walk around the city and think about that myself. Think about how our neighborhoods are defined by the restaurants and the food pockets that are everywhere, and what's going to happen when that doesn't exist anymore and we don't have the luxury to move around like that. What are those, what just the physical places themselves, what will they become? I for sure there's lots of ways to get creative and innovative about repurposing kitchens. And to Corey's point, I think that we have a very cool opportunity to do some rebuilding and some rethinking about what the problems were, what wasn't working, and what we really need to do to try and turn this thing around, so we can attempt to build some resilience into the system. Right? This is so weak and fragile, and the minute it takes a hit, the whole thing really crumbled. So I really want to see a more solid plan B, so that kitchens can pivot, much like what John's Kitchen is doing now, to think about community feeding or support workers or whatever it is. But we need more of a plan for what's happening at the ground on our restaurants. It's like a
Right.
big open space now.
We'll pursue that notion of a plan B a little later in our conversation. I want to find out from John, your people. I don't know how much you've been able to sort of follow up on what or how they're doing right now, but all your so-called front of house people, your waiters, your bartenders, maitre d's, what are they all doing now?
Well, some of them that we've been able to bring back have transitioned into shopkeepers and delivery drivers for us, as we've opened a couple of our storefronts into basically bottle shops selling wine with a little bit of food, as those laws are shifting and changing for the better in this province. But a lot of them are at home waiting on the government assistance, the CERB program. And I think the one good thing the federal government has achieved with their programs is taking care of our employees while we're closed. They have to be lauded very greatly for that. It was an effective, quick program that put money in people's pockets so they could keep food on the table very quickly. Although a lot of our most talented servers, who are not managers and bartenders, have unfortunately already shifted to a different sector. They see the writing on the wall. They understand that the future of food service in this country is not going to be what they got into it for, which is as a high-end, educated, very well-trained salesperson, creating a really amazing experience for people night after night. That's not going to be possible given what comes forward in the next 12 to 18 months. So a lot of them had other side gigs they were working on, or other interest projects, or other artistic endeavors, and they've just decided to pursue them full time because there just is not a positive prognosis for what their job description used to be with us.
And let me ask you the same question I asked Joshna about government response so far. She said inadequate. What do you say?
Yes, I'd have to agree on a number of fronts. So like I said, the federal government should be applauded for its approach to helping individuals during the crisis. Their approach to small business has been nothing short of piecemeal and half measures. And unfortunately, they're trying to cast a very wide net and capture as many businesses with each policy announcement as possible, when really what we need for our hospitality sector, which represents the lion's share of jobs lost in this country, 1.2 million people have lost their jobs in hospitality or related sectors in the past 3 months. That's an insane amount of people. And the fact that the government is having trouble coming to terms with a sector-specific solution is causing a massive problem. And really, when you're talking about restaurants closing and losing those jobs forever between now and August, the number one factor is the lack of hope. Maybe their landlord is not playing ball. Maybe their bills are piled way high. Maybe they see the access to more loans and say, I don't want more debt. These are all factors that determine people's decision to hand in their keys and shut it down. And maybe the fact that they weren't really making any money to begin with before this, and that they just don't see now even a way forward. All of these factors cause a problem. And because the government hasn't been able to put the hope out, they haven't been able to announce something and say, yes, we're going to help you in ways X, Y, and Z. Just let us figure out the details. that's been our biggest challenge as advocates. I mean, we're talking with government officials on a weekly basis on this topic, and we have great engagement with the federal government. They're very receptive and they listen. The problem is the policies are slow to come out and tend not to address all the concerns we have.
Well, Corey, I know people are trying to reimagine.
Provincially.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead, John.
I think we should all, I don't want to lose this point. We got to talk provincially at the lack of attention to the plight of retail rent payers in this province. The Premier has spoken with very passionate words on this and chastised landlords. But chastising a landlord and saying, I'm going to do something if you don't do the right thing, is really an ineffective strategy, because all it does is make landlords evict people faster, knowing that you're going to ban evictions soon. What they need to do is ban evictions immediately for commercial tenants.
Well, let me follow up on that, because the Premier has always said he is loath to do that, because people have been asking him to do that for 3 weeks, but the program to help backstop tenants, commercial tenants, didn't actually kick in till this week.
But he hasn't mandated that program. That program is voluntary.
Absolutely. But do you know whether any of your landlords are going to take it up?
Well, from our survey across the country, less than 25% of landlords plan on taking it up. So for various reasons, whether they think they don't qualify, or it just doesn't benefit them, or they didn't like that tenant to begin with and they want them out. This is a perfect opportunity for landlords to legally cancel leases. And it's caused a lot of predatory behavior. And in my mind, even one tenant being kicked out because of this lack of action by the province is too many. One business owner who's invested his or her entire life into their business and many, many years of hard work getting kicked out because of everyone saying, well, let's just wait and see what happens. It's unacceptable.
But Joshna, the thing I've never got about this is, why would a commercial landlord want to kick out a tenant right now? I mean, theoretically, 75% of whatever your rent was going to be, which is what this new commercial backstop program is, right? The federal and provincial governments pay half the rent, the tenant pays a quarter of the rent, and the landlord takes a 25% haircut.
Right.
75% of something is better than 100% of nothing. Why would you want to kick a tenant out right now if you're a landlord? Like who are you going to get to come in right now, given what's going on with the economy anyway?
It's a great question, Stephen. It's the same one that I have. When I see, my colleagues having to deal with this with their landlords, I wonder to myself, what on earth is the benefit of this? And I think the best sense that I can make of it is that this is a real period of a bit of lawlessness, right? There's a lot of people are sort of acting however they want without being mandated to or compelled to by government, right? That and I know government can't compel people to be nice and kind, but it doesn't I don't understand the lack of vision, or at least foresight on behalf of the landlord, to imagine the challenge of attempting to start a new lease with somebody at this insane moment in time. It's just, I don't understand why anybody would do that. It doesn't make sense to me.
John, what do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of landlords who were planning on developing their property. And so if they're able to evict their tenant legally now, they don't have to wait for that lease to expire. It might have been 2, 3, 4 years. They purchased the property with the intention to develop it. They had plans to do so when the commercial lease expired. Now they don't have to wait. And honestly, the perfect time to start a construction project is during a pandemic, when construction costs are much lower because the demand for labor is lower.
I understand. So they're exploiting the opportunity to get rid of a tenant for this purpose. Okay, that had not occurred to me. Exactly. Corey, what would you add to that?
I think we need to connect the two ideas of real estate and what restaurants mean to us, and what the government understands or doesn't understand about the hospitality industry. Because restaurants, when restaurants fail, they don't just fail their employees, they fail their suppliers, they fail their communities, they fail their landlords. If they can't pay the rent and we have empty storefronts on Main Street, what happens to the price of commercial real estate? What happens to the price of associated residential real estate? Because suddenly it's not a great place to live anymore without all these great restaurants. And on the other side, you have the question of, as John has brought up, government government at all levels who is willing and is listening, but doesn't really understand what to do. I've heard this again and again. And in my pursuit, I've been calling around to universities saying, I want to talk to an economist, but one who really understands hospitality. And I keep hearing, we don't really have someone like that. And that seems so strange. And the more I talk to economists, the more I've heard economists, and therefore the people the government listens to, tend to study trade, energy,
Yes.
exports, those sort of things, and they don't really look so much at retail and specifically hospitality, despite the 1.2 million Canadians it employs. So as a result, there's a huge blind spot for the fact that this isn't just about like, oh, wouldn't it be nice to still have restaurants, as much as this is a load-bearing pillar of our community and our economy.
Nice.
While you've got the floor, Corey, let me follow up with this. People are starting to imagine what the restaurant of the future is going to look like. And the assumption is, with the obligation to make them super clean so that people feel safe. Who knows what infrastructure you'll have to add to do that. With the obligation to practice physical distancing, meaning you may have to move out half of the chairs or tables that you've got in there. Does this suggest they will have to charge more for their food, and therefore restaurants will become sort of the the playground of only the privileged going forward?
I think the simple answer is you'll see this strata of restaurant go like this. At the low end, you'll see more automation in fast food, what's known as the QSR. And at the high end, I spoke with a steakhouse owner yesterday who said he'll probably start doing a prefix, but instead of trying to average 125 a head, he'll try to average 250 a head, because the reality is at diminished capacity and without being able to really sort of have that comfort zone of not knowing how many people are coming in tonight, having to pre-book, having to prepay, he's got to assure those margins. And fancy food will get more expensive, particularly as people have to also experiment. There'll be a higher failure rate. But as we look forward to all we have really right now, everyone's looking at Asia, everyone's looking at Hong Kong. And we're looking at, having our temperature taken when we walk in, everywhere wearing masks. And to a certain degree, we're looking at a culture where that's already much more part of people's daily lives.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if people will be willing to adapt to that, but talk to any restaurant here, and the first thing a restaurateur here will tell you is, I can't make money at 50% capacity. I can't make money at 25% capacity. So even if they're doing that, that's just going to be one part of their business. The rest might be takeout, groceries, meal kits, lessons, becoming a brand more than just selling food.
Well, Joshna, let me get you to follow up on another potential angle on this story as we consider the reopening of restaurants in the future. A lot of people are doing their own cooking now, much more so than they ever did before.
Yes.
And who knows if this becomes a new habit. I wonder whether you're concerned that our newfound love for cooking at home will give us another reason not to go back to restaurants in the future.
I am, of course, delighted at the spike in hours clocked in the kitchen. I think it's wonderful. And they say that it takes 21 days to develop a new habit, right? So we're going on 3 months of this. So it's really quite possible that this will stick with some people. But I honestly don't believe that that because people have higher developed home cooking skills, that will really prevent them from going out to a restaurant. I think that coupled with the fact that we are all so anxious to get out there and eat, I cannot wait to go out for lunch. That the combination of those two, I think, will have at least an initial groundswell of excitement. What the longer term piece is still quite unknown. But I believe that we are craving connection with each other so intensely that we will get out there. The minute I'm given a green light to sit at a table and enjoy a meal with my people, I will be there.
John, maybe I could get you to respond to both of those answers, the notion of the economics of the future of reopening, and also the fact that some people may not go back because they've developed this kind of new and fun way of cooking at home now.
Yes. So there's a couple things I'd like to add to Corey's response. I don't disagree with him in terms of a further stratification of the experience and the cost of that experience. I do strongly believe that you won't be able to eat at a restaurant without prepaying, like purchasing a ticket for an experience moving forward, especially for higher end experiences. I believe that that's going to be par for the course. I also would like to add to that. I think that many restaurants are going to shift into being more marketplaces. Because you can't fill your space with seats all the way, you're going to want to fill it with product for people just to come in, purchase something pre-made, pre-done, ready to go at home, and like a more of a really high-end prepared food shop. Because your brand already exists in terms of the experience you provide, people understand what you have on offer. And I think that there's definitely a shift toward, there's going to be a shift towards that. In terms of people cooking at home and going out, I think it's twofold. I think that yes, people will make habits, and they're also going to be working from home more often, so they'll be able to cook at home more easily. But I also believe that it's given people a much greater appreciation for the work of preparing,
Yes.
purchasing, cleaning, all of those. Like try making your own pizza at home and see how much work, time, and investment it takes to do it the right way. That's why I think prepared meal kits are going to be a really good thing to stay, for people to say, oh, what are we going to eat tonight for dinner? Well, I love, the carbonara at Ascari. Great. Let's go pick up a kit, and it'll take 50 minutes to put together. All the hard work is done.
Yep.
Gotcha. We've got just a few minutes left here, and let's try, Joshna, just come on in here and talk about, they always say never let a good crisis go to waste. So this is a crisis. It's also an opportunity to sort of rebuild how the industry works, reimagine how it works. What's on that list for you?
For me, definitely is this sort of plan B pivot, right? The moment we get the word from the premier or the mayor about a state of emergency, I would like to invest in building out this other opportunity where maybe restaurants are closing or have to shut and things have to pause, but all of those cooks are redeployed in places to be making community meals. Or we know that, this dude is going to bake all the bread and we're all going to work here to make soups out of this kitchen. And the money to fund it comes through. There's actually resources for us to build this system out, and that we know instantly we're just going to pivot. Suppliers are going to deliver here. We're going to make mass meals, and we're just going to keep the wheels turning the way we have, just with some resources, Steve. That's the piece, right? We've done this all sort of by the seat of our pants because of our commitment and because hungry people need to be fed. But to be able to do this with resources and infrastructure is really what I want to see happen.
Corey, what would you add to that?
Oh boy. I mean, this is a tragedy, but a worse tragedy would be to rebuild and reconstruct the previous industry with all of its problems. If people are going to start reconsidering what the restaurant industry looks like, I would like to see people taking aim at the issue that the nicer the restaurant, the less cooks are paid, the ridiculousness of the tipping system and the legal sub-minimum wage, racial bias in menu pricing, the predatory tech companies that use the delivery apps to kidnap customers and ransom them back, the widespread availability of unhealthy food that's subsidized through cheap labor and migrant worker exploitation. Is that a good half dozen to start with?
Boy, oh boy, that's a pretty exhaustive list. Yes, indeed. John, why don't I give you the last word? If this is a chance to reinvent, what are the one or two or three top items on your list?
So yeah, I think that a lot of the opportunity for change rests on our kind of broken business model, and a lot of that broken business model rests on the tipping scenario. It's a legacy that is very hard to overcome as an owner, because the moment you try to change the model, all of your front of house workers just go somewhere else. So we have a massive challenge. This pause and restart may afford us an opportunity to rethink that model, and en masse, as a bunch of restaurants, really change the way we compensate our staff and the way we charge our customers for the service.
Well, it's going to be a brave new world, whatever it is, once it gets restarted. And I want to thank you three for coming in tonight and helping us understand the issues today and what it may look like tomorrow. Joshna Maharaj, Corey Mintz, John Sinopoli. Be well, you three. Stay safe, and thanks again.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Steve.
Take care.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is brought to you by the Chartered Professional Accountants of Ontario. CPA Ontario is a regulator, an educator, a thought leader, and an advocate. We protect the public. We advance our profession. We guide our CPAs. We are CPA Ontario. And by viewers like you. Thank you.